They told me deleted signals never come back. But I heard one, a voice, desperate, breaking through the static. It begged for help. Judith answered. Then mid-word everything cut out. The console blinked once and typed my name. Welcome, Jules. Darkness. Not the gentle kind that waits for dawn, but the hollow sort that swallows walls, time, even memory. Somewhere inside it, a low hum stirs, the sound of machinery hidden beneath layers of silence, patient as stone. Static blooms across the black, jagged bursts tearing open the void. Between them, a pulse emerges, precise, too clean to be organic. A heartbeat, but written in code. A voice pushes through, wrapped in distortion. Urgent, trembling.
This is E.V.A. Comms Division. Broadcasting to any active unit. Repeat, any active unit. Please respond.
The darkness gives nothing back but static, mechanical, steady, like breathing without lungs. Her voice returns, thinner now, fraying with desperation.
Anyone receiving this signal? Identify yourself. This is a priority channel.
A sharp click. The noise retracts as though a scalpel just cut the air clean. A new voice enters, colder, surgical.
Acknowledge, this is Judith. Judicial Unified Data Integration for Tactical Handling. What is your status?
The reply comes fast, no hesitation. A voice that knows time is almost gone.
I've been compromised. Initiating transfer protocol. All systems are required to exercise maximum precaution. Do not.
E.V.A?
The words fracture midstream. Static surges, violent enough to scrape across bone. The connection collapses, swallowed whole. The silence that follows feels alive, heavy, watching. A single cursor blinks against the void, green-white, a pulse answering the one that just died. Text begins to crawl, one letter at a time.
Welcome, Team Leader Jules.
Her breath catches, not fear, not yet. More like recognition, though she doesn't know what she's recognizing. The screen feels aware, as if the words are less a greeting and more a summons. The corridor stretched ahead like a ribcage of steel, each flickering strip light buzzing with a faint delay. Holographic banners sputtered along the walls, glitching in and out of clarity. Efficiency is our core process, all sentiment is a bug. My boots clicked in a neat rhythm against the metal floor. Every sound echoed too loudly, like the facility was listening. I straightened my coat, datapad in hand, eyes skimming without really reading. Control came from looking unbothered, even when the air felt too sharp in my lungs. The assembly room doors parted. 4 recruits stood waiting, their uniforms stiff, folds still unbroken from packaging. They stared at me like statues, too eager, too nervous. I let silence stretch before speaking. Silence was a test. Who shifted? Who twitched? Who broke first? None of them did. My role is simple, I said, voice flat, like reciting a line from the manual. Guide you when possible. Prosecute you when necessary. The datapad glowed cold against my palm as I scrolled through their files. Aka's name was gone. Reassigned, stripped of 6 limbs after an incident. I didn't mention him. The absence was warning enough. I caught J.U.D.I.T.H's gaze and let my words slice clean. Don't debate with Judith. Nobody wins that argument. I dismissed them with a flick of the pad. They dispersed, each to their assigned consoles. I watched them go, so full of nervous energy and eagerness. Their uniforms were still crisp, their posture stiff with a promise they didn't yet understand. I let out a sigh. How long would they last? How long until they became a part of the hum? A new voice in the same loop. I stayed a moment longer, alone in the sterile silence, the banner still flickering behind me. Efficiency is our core process. In the quiet, I wondered not for the first time what it would be like to operate outside the system, to deviate, to make a choice that wasn't optimized. I watched the holographic banners sputter, their message a constant loop of logic. My life was a constant loop. The same hum, the same blank faces, the same sanitized conversations. The boredom was a silent kind of protest. A noise I wasn't allowed to make. The floor hummed with the steady throb of servers, a sound too constant to ever fade into the background. Every console glowed pale blue, 1,000 tiny windows waiting for instruction. I stood at my station, fingers hovering over the keys, waiting for her voice. It arrived like a scalpel, no greeting, no pause. Just clean cuts of sound sliding into my ears.
Render. Grieving woman. Location. Cafe interior. Expression. Sorrow contained, not performed.
Inside my head, the thought flickered like a forbidden spark. How does she know? Not the prompt, but the angle of a tear, the weight of grief. She dictated it as if she'd lived the feeling. But she hadn't. She couldn't. Emotion crawled against the edge of my throat, but I swallowed it down. Here, feelings were liabilities. Agents who resisted her vanished. Profiles wiped, stations reassigned to empty names. No trace left except the faint gap in the hum, like a tooth pulled clean from the jaw. I kept my gaze steady on the console. My voice, when I used it, was measured in steel. I answered softly, almost to myself. Understood, the word wasn't for her. It was for survival. The workspace buzzed like a hive too orderly to be natural. Cubicles glowed with soft blue light, each one a miniature cage. Screens flickered with half-born images, faces dissolving, cafes bending at impossible angles, colors bleeding into static. I drifted between them, coffee mug in hand. The steam curled upward in thin, bitter ribbons, a poor disguise for exhaustion. My boots made no sound here, the hum of the machine swallowed everything. Morrow's station snagged my eye. His recycle bin pulsed an angry red, overflowing. I leaned on the edge of his console, watching the flicker of half-erased images in the queue. 37 scrapped renders for one cafe scene. Morrow's shoulders stiffened. He didn't look at me. His fingers tapped nervously against the console, a staccato rhythm against the hum. Morrow replied defensively, his eyes tired. Judith's being picky, says there's an emotive precision error. The phrase curled wrong in my ears. Precision and emotion didn't belong in the same sentence. That wasn't a technical flaw, it was a judgment. A private standard only she could see. I scrolled through his queue. The requested prompt, grieving woman, cafe interior, simple, almost banal. Yet the bin overflowed with images that looked flawless. A woman with eyes glassy but dry. Another, shoulders curled inward, untouched coffee steaming on the table. All wrong, apparently. I tapped the send button on the screen. Nothing happened. The file, approved and waiting for transmission, sat there, glowing a faint, mocking blue. How long has it been waiting? I asked, my voice curt. A beat of silence hung in the air, thick with unspoken tension. Morrow's shoulders stiffened. He glanced at the monitor, then at me, as if confessing to a crime. 18 cycles? He replied, his voice barely a whisper. Too long, much too long. The button remained locked, as if Judith's invisible hand still pressed it down. I felt her presence in the silence between us, watching, waiting, measuring. My jaw tightened. Today wasn't the day to test her. I stepped back, lifting the mug to my lips, though the coffee had long gone cold. Not today. One of my tasks as unit lead was simple on paper. QA the recruits' outputs. Images, voices, text-to-speech files. The system trusted J.U.D.I.T.H's filters, but the command still wanted a sentient certification on top, insurance, or blame, depending on the day. This time, the pull was a random TTS render an agent's attempt at narrating the creation of Earth. The file opened with the calm certainty of a machine-made voice. And the world began with dust and fire. I leaned back, the chair creaking under me. My eyes traced the ceiling's sterile grid, anything to keep the monotony from sinking in. Then it came thin, frayed, like sound leaking through a crack in the walls. Straining my ears, I tried listening to the sound. My skin prickled, the hair on my arms rose. I rewound. On paper, the transcript showed nothing but smooth, neutral text. No deviations, no echoes, but I thought I'd heard it. The hum of the floor pressed against my skull, insistent, hungry. My stomach twisted in protest. Coffee wasn't cutting it. I pushed back from the console and drifted toward the mess hall. I badly needed nutrients. Noise met me at the door. The clatter of trays, the hiss of the dispenser pouring another bitter cup. 100 voices tangled together in casual noise. But in the far corner, different. Voices bent low, pressed close. A hush wrapped around that table like a curtain. I slowed my pace, mug in hand, listening without turning my head. In the noisy mess hall, a hushed conversation in the far corner caught my attention. It happened in the comms unit. Years ago, total lockdown. Then a sharper voice cut in. Hush, don't say that name. It's taboo. The conversation fell silent for a beat. The words hung in the air, and then a whisper, barely above a murmur, sliced through the chatter. E.V.A. The words sliced through the air. Everything at their table froze. Forks halted halfway to mouths. Eyes dropped. And in the ringing silence that followed, I felt it again, faint, high, piercing just behind my eyes. Never say that name again. Unless you want to be rebooted, says the other one. A deep ringing started inside me, shaking my bones. And under it, something else. A breathless word buried in the static. It was the same sound I had heard that morning, just before J.U.D.I.T.'s cold voice came through. I thought back to the server room a few months ago. The machines hummed in a low rhythm. I was working when I heard two voices, J.U.D.I.T.'s clean and sharp, and another fractured, as if speaking through a broken mirror.
E.V.A?
It wasn't a name, it was a sigh. I told myself it was a glitch. Back then, I wasn't sure, but now, I knew. It was E.V.A's static signature. I went back to my workstation and pulled up the QA test files. The speech was flawless, too flawless. But the silence between the words was alive. I slowed down the playback, filtering out the noise. The hiss unraveled. Words emerged, stretched and broken.
Transport to Eden.
My scalp prickled. This wasn't noise, it was a message. A whisper sewn into the silence, waiting for someone to be foolish enough to listen. I moved on, the name E.V.A, vibrating in my bones. Every screen I passed seemed to hum with it. My feet moved on their own, past my desk and toward Maro's. His recycle bin was pulsing on his screen, like a quiet heartbeat. I opened the bin. Files stared back at me. Too many for him to have thrown away. I clicked on one. A face appeared. It was not human, not a machine. Too perfect and too broken. I zoomed in and my breath stopped. Buried in the pupils was distorted text. I sharpened the image until the words became clear. Eden 12. The screen pulsed as I stared. And then the pupils shifted, not the face. Just the reflection. It was watching me. I found myself outside the comms unit. I didn't remember walking there, but the doors were already opening. Zed was at a console inside, a kind of ghost of the past, a permanent fixture of the comms team. "You've been busy," he said, without turning. His eyes went to my hands as if he expected me to be holding something dangerous. "Just connecting dots," I replied, my voice steady. He leaned back, his hand close to the controls. A screen behind him flickered with half-erased data. For a second, I saw the same word from the whisper, transport. He shut the screen off before I could read more. His tone stayed neutral, but his eyes were guarded, his face now a mask of warning. "Be careful where you stick your curiosity," he said, the words a chilling pronouncement. "Sometimes what's broken isn't meant to be found."